Hello, welcome to the Hearthstone Half Hour, and this is Falcraft Cast. I'm Hammy. Hope you're good. We are taking a look at a old classic, an old Hearthstone classic. So if you're new to Hearthstone, never fear, we'll introduce this to you. If you played Hearthstone before and you recognise this deck, great. We're going to take a look also at how it's changed with Goblins versus Gnomes. So it is Handlock Warlock. Without further ado, let's jump on in. We're going to do what we always do on a new Player Monday, do a run through of the deck and how it works, and then jump into some games on the ladder. In this case, it's a new season. We are not afraid of a few losses. We are low down. It does not matter for us too much at this point. If you are trying this for the first time, or you're new to Hearthstone, I fully recommend going into casual mode, which is awesome. It means you can just try out new decks and see how they go. So, Handlock. What is the philosophy of Handlock? Well, Handlock is not a zoo. Handlock revolves around using your hero power, broadly speaking, stacking loads of cards in your hand, and then staying alive in the early to mid game, of course. That's very important with all of the rushing that happens in Hearthstone at various times. So you need to stay alive in the early game. Take a look at this mana curve. Stay alive in the early game with what you have. You see all of those big mid to late game cards. You use those to win with. That is where your winning is done, as an Xbox One commercial with Sylvester Stallone quotes very, very handsomely. I'm not sure if that's an international commercial, but I digress. That's how winning is done! Right, so our winning is done mid to late game. I'm not going to be a Sylvester Stallone impersonator, by the way. How do we stay in control? How do we stay alive in the early game? Mortal Core removes cards. DarkBomb, new with Goblins versus Gnomes. 3 damage for 2 mana. A great, great nuker that's replaced Soulfire to a degree in a lot of people's decks, due to the slight nerf it had recently. How do you also survive in the early game? Well, Ancient Watcher. It's also worth noting that this deck is quite greedy. It sacrifices early to mid game control for more later game threats. So you could remove some of the later game threats. You could drop in an additional Ancient Watcher, an additional Iron Beacon, and forgive me, I just need to let my dog out. I'll be 1 minute. Sorry for the delay, those of you on YouTube. For those of you who are regular on twitch.tv/FalcraftCast, Shep the dog has been here with us. He is just a little bit hot, so I've just let him out. He's going downstairs to join my wiser half. Right, back to our deck. So this deck is greedy. You can make sure that you have a little bit more early game ability, maybe by dropping one of the finishers for a Watcher. Watchers combined with Iron Beacon nicely. You can silence your Watcher so it can attack. You can also throw down a Watcher in the early game. You can hit it with Sunfury Protector to protect yourself nicely by creating an early game tank that hopefully all of the small aggro minions will break themselves against. Big Game Hunter can be used for mirror matches. That's really to remove big threats from your opponent. Dr. Boom with Goblins versus Gnomes is around quite a bit. That will remove a lot of big threatening cards that you'll come against. Hellfires, 2 of those Hellfires, and you can always swap one of those for a Watcher as your preference, but Hellfire, 3 damage to all characters. You want to draw one of those against aggro and you're just going to be clearing the table with Zoos, clearing the table when it comes to mech mages and simmer, or hunters as well. Shadow Flame, 2 of those 2. Destroy a friendly minion, deal its attack damage to all. Now if you use a Shadow Flame on a Molten Giant, you're really clearing the table as well. Big attack minions if you've got big attacking tables against druids and similar perhaps. If you have got a rush deck, well, you can be using a Shadow Flame on your Ancient Watcher to remove lots of stuff. So Shadow Flame is a really good clearance. You've got a lot of clearance here, but you can take more if you really want to. Defender of Argus, that is used to tank up your big minions, of course. You can also give those buffs. Ancient Watcher in the early game if you need to stall a rush. Throw it on a Twilight Drake, on Mountain Giants, Molten Giants, Argus and Giants, or Argus and Drakes. You're well on your way to winning the game. Double anti-kill bot here. In this meta, lots of stuff hits you hard and fast. 2 anti-kill bots, you could sacrifice one of those if there's not quite so much aggro. But this is designed to really get a hard head start, nice and hard and fast. So real nice. Lotheb, again, could be switched out for another sort of pivoting card or similar, but that, throw it down in mid-game, you can always tank that up as well. That will slow down your opponent too. Double Belchers will really stop aggro in their tracks. You could drop one of those if you're in a less aggro-heavy game, but you've got a really strong mid-game here. Even if you can't grab your Giants, if you have to play a slower start and can't fill your hand full of cards, you've got a lot of strong mid-game options here to let you get into the late game too. Sylvanas, great in this game. Throw it down when your opponent has big threats on the table and they have to make hard decisions as to how they deal with it. And because of the other big threats you're going to throw down too, it's going to be hard for them to know what to focus. Boom just gets you ahead. Throw them down. 2 boom bots that can do 1 to 4 damage to a random minion when they die. Alex can also be used to heal yourself back up. if you need to, or put you in a position to critical your opponent, lethal your opponent too by reducing their health down to. Worst comes to worst, it's another 8 attack, 8 health minion that you can throw tanks on top of if you need. 2 Mountain Giants, fill your hand with cards if you can, and then throw that down turn 4 or turn 5 if you're going second even with a coin. Molten Giant in the late game, if you've got low health, you can throw that down and then heal yourself back up with heal bots. So you've got 2 different giant options. If you can get greedy with cards, then you can get Molten Giant down nice and early. If you're taking damage and you need to keep yourself alive, you can throw down Moltens later in the game and you've still got the tanking combos. So all well and good. Long story short, stay alive. Depending on the deck you play against, you can either get very, very greedy and try and get ahead real fast to do lots of damage, or you keep yourself alive and stable, and then you need to draw ahead in the late game with 2 antique heal bots. You've got 16 health that you can restore, and that's a big heal. That should get you well back in the game. So if you're throwing down 2 Molten Giants and then heal botting and tanking, then you should be in a good position. Right, that is our quick summary of Handlock. Now we're going to throw it into a couple of ladder matches to see how it fares. Okay, so what have we got? We're playing a warrior. We don't know whether this is control or aggressive, but I'm quite happy in this situation to try and get greedy early. So I'm probably going to be life tapping, unless it is a aggressive warrior. So I don't mind having a Drake because that'll get nice and nasty, nice and early. The Sun Fury will also be pretty strong. I could tap for a giant. I'm going to keep that Sun Fury. DarkBomb will also give me some control. So really with Handlock, it is what kind of deck are you playing against? Oh, we're playing a Golden Warrior, so certainly a very experienced warrior here. Okay, nothing I can do on a turn 1. I can control turn 2. And very nicely I can Shadow Flame if I need to with a Twilight Drake to remove lots of little minions if they hit the table. Nothing from my warrior so far. I'm actually going to start getting greedy. I'm going to get greedy for my Twilight Drake, so I can take a bit of damage. Now if this is a control warrior, really it's going to be down to, can I swing in for enough damage, can I do enough damage, get the table under enough control, so that when he starts controlling it does not matter. Some armouring up there. I can get doubly greedy. I'm going to get doubly greedy. I really ran my hand full of cards. I've not grabbed my, sadly, my Mountain Giant. You can already see that I've got 8 cards in hand. It would be a very, very nice time to throw down a Mountain Giant here. I could start attacking, my opponent would stop controlling, and we'd see who would come off the better. In comes an Armor Smith. We can be nigh on sure that we're playing a control warrior at this point. So what do I want to do with a control warrior? Well, a Twilight Drake will let me trade this off the table. I do not have my Mountain Giant. I'm going to be quite happy. Throw that down. Instantly becomes a 9 health minion. My opponent's already got a decision to make. Next turn I can throw down an Ancient Watcher and a Sun Fury Protector. I've already got a nice tanky table. I can then trade that away for little to nothing. If he starts using Executes, if he starts using Whirlwinds, then they're control cards that the control warrior is not going to be able to use against my bigger attacking threats later in the game. In comes an Armour Up, and in comes a direct blow straight to the face. So at this stage I've got quite aggressive. I could throw down a Lotheb as well. That would really slow my opponent down. I'm actually going to go for that because Control Warrior would like to throw out minions soon. So options here. I can trade that away. I can get a really nice solid table. We've got 2 Sun Fury Protectors. A Lotheb would certainly give a few different options. I don't want to be dark bombing at this point either. Okay, I'm going to go for the more solid table position here. I'm going to go for this. I'm going to drop quite nicely into a Sun Fury, and then I'm going to trade away that minion. It will make sure that my opponent can't be generating ridiculous amounts of mana. A big welcome to Thresh as well, as well as all of those live. How come the opponent is animated, but I'm not? Well, that opponent has won over 500 games with their warrior. And we see a brawl. Okay, so that's control number 1 coming out. Remember, I'm only going to keep one of those cards. And hey, I've kept a tank. I don't mind that too much. Right, so we've got all of our Moltens, but none sadly. Now I would quite like to grab my Mountain Giants. However, I do have a nice big and full hand here. So options here. I could throw down a Sludge. I'm quite happy to throw down a Lotheb because that's just going to be slowing my opponent down again. So of course I do not have 500 wins with my Warlock. I've got 500 wins with my Warrior, so I've got a Golden Warrior. That's why you get a nice little animated hero for 500 ranked wins. Righty ho. Okay, so far this is an interesting matchup. This is looking, we'll see what comes out of our opponent's hand, but it's looking like a fairly standard control warrior. Perhaps they're struggling a bit with draw, we just don't know at this point. But if it is a control warrior, we'll see lots of big cards coming out. We might see Ragnaros, Boom, Alexstrasza, all kinds of nasty things. And a big welcome to Black Cat Hamlet, who's just joined us live, as well as Tomodachi, Timbers, Nuska, Simbuddy, Thrash, O'Bring as well. Also good to see us. In comes a Shield Slam for 6, really hard control, and wasting the manners as well. So I still can't attack. My opponent will not be too concerned by that. So Shadow Flame I don't need to. Dark Bomb, that's only going to be softening myself up. I'm actually, remember, if you've got card draw against anything else, I'm going to go greedy here. I've got an Argus, I quite like that. And then I'm going to throw down a Sludge Belcher. So I've still got a nice big wall. My opponent now needs to decide as well. They've already played a Brawl. They will probably have 2 Whirlwind, 2 Execute, 2 Shield Slam. Card counting here is pretty good. So I've got a little bit of paper. I know that 1 Shield Slam has come out. I know that 1 Brawl has come out, and because I've played a lot of Control Warrior myself, I can take a rough stab at this deck list. They may or may not have a big game Hunter. Very, very good, of course, against all of my Giants. So even though we're playing rank 16 here at the moment, this is a matchup that you could equally see higher in the ladder or even at Legend. Handlock against Control Warrior. Good illustration of how these decks can work. Ooh, now that is interesting. That is now milling me. So I've got a full hand. In comes a Clockwork Giant. It's not a standard Control Warrior, but Clockwork Giant, of course, 1 less for each card in your opponent's hand. Very, very nice indeed. Of course, I'm also going to draw a card next turn, and I'm going to be shredding a card. So not only is he getting big threats on the table, this warrior is also milling me. I may have to take that back. It may not be a standard Control Warrior after all. So I need to get my hand. Shield Slam comes in. That's going to get rid of some stuff as well. I've still got my big tank up and armoring up as well. So I'm losing a card next go. Don't ever want to be in this position. I'm going to say only an Iron Beak Owl, but I want to try and thin my hand a little bit. Right, so Siphon Soul, destroy a minion and restore 3. But then I'm not going to be able to do huge amounts of thinning of my hand either. So, decisions to be made. Destroy a minion and deal attack damage to all. Well, I don't want to be shredding my hand for shredding my hand's sake. I think that we could Siphon Soul. I don't want to draw another card, that's for true. So I'm going to... Whoop! Almost got the wrong way. I'm just going to Siphon Soul. A big welcome to Catharella, who joins us live on stream. Happy New Year to you. So I'm actually going to Dark Bomb in this situation, as crazy as that sounds. I'm going to Dark Bomb for some removal. Now at least I've got my hand down to 8, so unless another nasty... in comes a Ragnaros the Fire Lord. Nasty. All of the Control Warrior finishes coming out. Out of the 3, takes out my big tank. So this is where my big game Hunter and Similar would come in very nasty. And in fact, I'm actually very happy indeed. I've got a Sylvanas Windrunner I can play into, which is splendid as well. So a Shadow Flame, I could, if I take damage, my Molten Giants are going to come in 4th. I'm actually going to get a Sylvanas on the table.
I have no time for games.
Now I've got a Defender of Argus that I can do stuff with my Molten Giants. Or I could life tap now, because I've seen one. I could see another of those oracles as well. That could be quite dangerous. Sunfree Protector could get thrown down as well. So I could get greedy. It's probably very unlikely that he's going to be charging that off the table. If he does destroy this, then he's going. I'm going to take a risk. In comes a Healbot. Okay, let's see what we can do. Okay, so if I get milled. So this is a really nice little matchup for us. Down goes an Explosive Sheep. If that is destroyed, Fury War Axe is going to remove this. Now with 5 mana out of 9, we'll probably see an armor up. But then, is he going to try and remove this? If he removes this, there's a 50-50, which is probably why the I missed 1 damage there. It says Thrash Live. Yeah, that's true. I should have attacked. I should have attacked with my. I should have attacked with my ooze. Very good spot you guys on stream, a little misplay there. And in comes a blow straight to the face. Very nice indeed, right? So now we have 2 6s. So here's the thing, do I just destroy this and restore 3? could be a very solid option indeed. I don't know whether my opponent's going to get a full lethal in, so I think that I'm going to Siphon Soul it. It seems if you're 1 damage off lethal, indeed. So I'm going to do that for the Restore 3 Shadow Flame. Now this, of course, my opponent is going to look for a full-on destroy of that. So I could buff everything up just that little bit more with an Argus. I'm going to go for the Argus. Let's start putting a bit of pressure on my opponent. Big fail play there. If you can do damage, you should always do damage. Should have attacked for 1 if nothing else. And welcome to Savizzy. It's good to see you. 2. So those of you on YouTube, you can take his rag. Oh, and a good Black Camp Hamlet said a very good option. What I should have done was have taken Ragnaros. Could have killed the sheep with the ewes, attacked with Sylvanas for 5 haste, and then siphoned it to steal the rag. A very, very good point. Lots of people saying in chat I made a very big misplay there. Stealing the Ragnaros would have undoubtedly been the better play. Let's see how this all works out. So that would have been a very, very good play, and as everyone has just said live on stream, if you're watching on YouTube, I've been corrected in the best possible way. I could have had a free Ragnaros there and had the Siphon Soul. Let's see if this works out. The Whirlwind, of course, is going to take that out. Pops everything down, brings me down to 3. We'll probably see a straight control play there to the face. And I've lost Sylvanas. I'm in a similar position and I do not have a Ragnaros. So, as you can see, destroy a minion in Siphon Soul. In comes a Baron Geddon. Very nasty indeed. So it could be that that is the difference between victory and defeat. A little misplay, well not a little misplay, a pretty big misplay for me there. So, options now. I'm actually going to go for a big game. I'm going to take the risk of throwing down the Molten at 7. An excellent point. A real misplay by me there, but I'm really glad that we always do this live. Because folks can correct me, and comes a big game counter. We'll probably see a control play, taking out that big game myself, leaving him with damage on the table. I've still not seen Molten Giants, my Mountain Giants. Now this is where if I'd got greedy, but my Mountain Giants are going to come out late game and they're going to be very strong indeed. So I have a very full hand. Here are the questions as to how the plays go. Do I Antique? I'm going to go for a Molten into a Sun Fury. This is when my threats keep dropping, but ideally I would have been playing these Moltens when I had less. There's a trade. We're going to see it slams into an execute, so that's an execute. I think we've seen an execute as well now. In comes a Ysera. That's a nice finisher. So we're going to start seeing the trade plays. That's going to be filling my opponent's hand full of nasty. What can I do to avoid that? Well, let's take a look. Shadow Flame's not going to help me remove a Ysera anytime soon. A Healbot will get me topped up with health. With Hellfires, it's not really good, and this is where 2 Hellfires when you're not playing against aggro is not fantastic. I'm actually going to throw down a Boom and kind of say, right, I'm going for your face, what are you going to do about it? I'm going to get really, really greedy. Belcher is actually very nice here because this will help me soak up the threats. Doesn't have a weapon on the table. Could Grommash in for 12. Plus Ysera. There's actually a lethal there if we've got a Cruel Taskmaster and a Grommash Hellscream in my opponent's hand. So this is the wonders of Zoo Warlock. The wonders of Handlock. And this is a great matchup. You can see I made a big mistake. Ooh, and that 2 Death Rattle to all is going to be very nasty indeed. Out comes the Death Spite going straight to the face. Straight to the face. And of course these could be various nasty minions. In comes a Mountain Giants, but is it going to be too late? Right, so let's work out the play order here. Hellfire is not what I want. A Shadow Flame. Destroy friendly, deal damage to all. That's going to potentially remove everything. But then we're going to take 2 to my face. So I can get rid of Ysera. That'll be very, very good indeed. I can then heal bod after to bring me back up and Sludge Belcher. I can really stabilise the table in one turn, so I need to play this quite carefully. If I attack this, it's going to leave me alive, but it's not going to do enough damage to Ysera potentially to make that wipe. Ysera will be down to 8 and then I'll have to trade 2. I think Shadow Flame is the correct play here, I think. But then it's going to be totally random where this goes. They may not kill the Ysera off. If I attack this in, I can still Shadow Flame afterwards. I'm going to take that risk. Okay, that's 1, that's 2. I still have the Shadow Flame ability. That'll probably die next turn anyway. But however, because of those trades I can only heal bot in, which I have to do. Okay, so no real choice bar to heal bot there. Attack Dr. Boom and maybe the bombs. I was thinking of that pull. Shield block comes in for a card draw. Now we've seen a Geddon. We've also seen a Clockwork Giant. We've also seen a Ysera. We've also seen a Ragnaros. So with my card counting, I think we've probably only got Grommash. In comes on 2 Abominations. Really going for Abominations rather than Dr. Boom, rather than Sludge Belchers this deck, of course. Right, so what do we have here? We can certainly do some removal there. Do I want to Hellfire? Probably not. Mountain Giant afterwards will get more expensive the more I deal into hand. Shadow Flame. Okay, I think even if I do this, I will take 2. I get this on the table, but I would probably rather the blockade of the Sludge Belcher I'm feeling. So let's go for this. Let's go for that. Let's go for a DarkBomb. Of course, I'm down to 11 now. Very, very dangerous indeed. But I'm just going to have to Sludge Belcher. Now I can Alex my own health back up. I've never seen this kind of control warrior, says Thrash, live on the stream. Abominations used to be very old school control warrior before Naxxramas and Sludge Belcher, so I recognise that. Clockwork is a nice piece of tech against rushes. You saw the Oracle as well, that was interesting too. And a control warrior in many ways is quite happy to accelerate in. Now, I'm just floating around a very dangerous stage here, where, now I cannot quite, I probably want to just go health, 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 greed, greed, greed. So, Alex Straza, no point me dropping my opponent's health, would rather heal myself back up if I'm in a more dangerous position. However, of course, with this low health, we could see a nasty Grommash play, so I'm going to do this. I'm going to heal myself back up a little. And welcome to Ludus joins us live in chat as well. And there we go, we were thinking of the Grommash incoming, and there it's come. So we can see that the swing comes in, the 1 Enrage comes up, Nightmare pops up to a 15, that's a really nice, well played actually. So that's a great finisher from the Control Warrior. So a really nice finish from our Control Warrior there. A mistake in mid-game that you guys flagged. I should have made the trade and actually stolen the Ragnaros. Perhaps that would have made the difference. So although I lost that in the end, I'm not a massive Handlock player, but that was a really, really good example of what you could actually see. You could see this deck in action, be it in the high ranks of the ladder or even in Legend rank. You know, my deck is a fairly standard Handlock, and that was an interesting Control Warrior, but still a very, very strong one. The Oracle to the Clockwork Giant was an additional thing I had to control. Okay, next up we have Paladin. So, against a Paladin, well, Hellfire, he might fill the table with lots of littlies. The Mountain Giant is nice if I can get greedy. I don't want to siphon souls. So here, we're probably going to see this Paladin. There's a quartered Paladin that's quite popular. Fills the table with 1/1 tokens and then throws down a Quartermaster, which buffs all of those by 2. So I would quite like some kind of control. I'm going to play more cautiously, keep a Hellfire, because I know that lots of little paladin tokens are going to come out. I was ideally looking for some more early game control cards, Shadow Flames, an Ancient Watcher maybe. Not managed to draw those, sadly. We'll see how this comes out. Let's end the turn. So we could be aggroed in the face. Most pallies in this meta can be quite mid-game, so down goes that. We fully expect that to be a noble sacrifice. And you know what? If our opponent's not got anything on the table, our deck has to get greedy. So I'm going to be live tapping as much as I can afford. This time, remember, we didn't see our Mountain Giants last time. In comes a Reinforce. So I'm just going to get greedy, 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 greedy. We get to 5 mana, and then we're going to be able to drop a Mountain Giant on turn 4. So, really what happens with our opponent here? In comes a Harvest Golem, throwing some tokens in. Hellfire is excellent against the Muster and Quartermaster play, says Black Hamlet. It certainly is. Right, so I think there's nothing wrong with this. Let's get down our Giants and pretty much say, okay, Pally, how are you going to control it? Now, the Paladin Secret. We should probably take a little bit of time to review Paladin Secrets. In comes an Old Orc Peacekeeper War, down to 1, but that still means I've got a huge tank, so I'm quite happy. So, when an enemy attacks, summon a 2/1 defender. Noble sacrifices that. An opponent plays a minion, reduce itself to 1. When we play this and it hasn't been reduced, it's not a Repentance. When a minion dies, return it to life with 1 health. We can very quickly check that by trading. Avenge is quite likely. When one of your minions dies, give a random friendly minion +3/+2. So we could really suspect an Avenge here. Okay, at 5 mana, what options do we have? Well, an Antique Healbot would top us up very nicely. I don't think we actually need that too much at this point in time. So I'm going to try and do a little face check and see what we have. I can turn this into a tank and get triply greedy. Or we could perhaps look to see if we can trade away Harvest Golem or similar. I can strife 3 of these off the table in a move with a Hellfire. That is going to give me a little bit of pain. I can then create a tank. Decisions. Let's try this out. Okay. So is it an Avenge? Yes. We're going to see a +3/+2. But then, this is actually real nice. Look what I can do here. Because I had that 1 Align Becal, I've not only nullified the effects of that Avenge, I've also managed to remove the Death Rattle of the Golem. Good point from Thrash in the chat. I could have owled the Giant and gone to face for a lot of damage. So I've gone for a more controlling play rather than a very aggressive play there. And a big welcome to Warband Paul also joining us live, and Alex Land, good to see you too. So we've seen the trading coming. Destroying the minion with 2 or less, silencing would have been very nice on the Giant there. My opponent still has full table control. However, I can Giant now. I've got a Healbot, I've got Sludge Belcher, or I could just go for a full-on, very, very aggressive Hellfire to remove a lot of this off the table. I think in this situation, do I want to be stabilising the table? Do I just want to be removing? I'm quite happy. Ooh, should I go hyper-aggressive? Could my opponent muster for battle into a Quartermaster? Doesn't have quite enough mana to do so. Siphoning Soul I'd prefer for a larger threat. It's a 6 and 2/3 here. I'm going to go for another Giant. My opponent does not have quite enough table damage to remove, unless of course Paladin buffs start coming out. So in comes a Hammer of Wrath. There's the 3 damage that we were looking for, giving my opponent more than enough to trade with. We will probably see a trade with these 2. I think leave the bigger health minion on the table would make a lot more sense. I don't mind this too much. I can still get a bit more greedy, and of course remember I've got those Molten Giants in hand to come out. Out comes a Fairy Dragon. I'm looking at sort of a token early to mid-range Pally at the moment. So with 7 on the table, Hellfire, that'll be getting mega aggressive. Feeling a little bit risky there. A Loatheb would certainly slow down my opponents. I'm actually going to go... This is the last bit of greedy. I've gone so greedy. I've got my health down very low now. But I can throw down a Modern Giant. I can probably heal pot up next turn and just stay a little bit safer. A Loatheb also an equally good option to prevent some spells in the mid game as well. Paul says, ever thought about playing against viewers? We do play against viewers from time to time. I'm predominantly play on EU, but I'm probably going to start a free-to-play series of videos on a US account, so I can always throw you my Battle.net ID that I created for that. Alrighty then, so we've seen some removal there, just a face trade. We now have a Nasty Azure Drake down as well. With 8 mana, Pally could throw down something very, very nasty at this point, so I need to make a decision. Do I trade and then Hellfire for a complete table clear? Hard decision to be made. If I end up getting totally run out of town, this will be why. I've gone very, very greedy there. Or by greedy I mean risky. I've taken my health very, very low. Down comes a counter belcher, and with a reinforce my opponent is stabilising, which is great because it gives me time to stabilise too. Lovely stuff here. Okay, so here's where I can slowly start getting more ahead. Now, with one of those into a heal bot, I'm just going to make sure I'm in a nice safe position. And then of course remember I've got Defender of Argus, I've also got Sun Fury Protector as well, so we can create some big and nasty tanks in the next couple of goes. So, really it's going to be trade for trade. I can get down a Belcher, Lothar, but I can throw down Alexstrasza to put some pressure on. At this stage we could expect Tyrion Fordring and a bunch of other stuff. Ooh, and an Equality comes in into a Consecrate all over Paladin control play. Very nice indeed. And leaves me in a little bit of a sticky position. And maybe a Sylvanas for trade and similar. Well, Mortal Coil gives me a nice card draw. I think that's a very easy thing to do. And of course, if I'd thrown down a Lothar last go, we've got to note that that would have absolutely stabilised me a whole bunch more. So decisions, do I throw down a Belcher to prevent face damage, or do I throw down a Lothar to really just slow down my opponent a little bit more? I'm going to, again, we've been going generally very risky here, so I'm going to go for that. Note that by not destroying the Blood Mage, I have not given my opponent another card draw. And anyone who's just joining us, welcome to Felcraft Casts. If you're on YouTube, excuse the re-intro. If you're live on stream, we're just finishing up a Handlock little introduction strict guide, taking a look at what's new in Goblins versus Gnomes, or if you're new, just looking at Handlock from a new player's perspective. Okay, so maybe a few missed decisions in here. My opponent's got a very stable table there. Out comes the Twilight Drake, that would have been nice to see earlier. Really what I need now, remember my Siphon Soul is not going to be able to target, can't be targeted by spells or hero powers. I can go for a straight trade here. Alexstrasza will top me back up if I need, or can reduce my Paladin opponent's health to enough of a degree that I can do some nice threats in the late game. So if I Siphon Soul, that's going to give me a nice easy heal. If I Twilight Drake, I don't have anything to make tanks with at this point in time. So Siphon Soul would be nice for a Tyrion Fordring. I don't have anything that's high enough attack to be doing nastiness at the moment. For a straightforward 6/4, I think that to keep this on the table, if I Siphon Soul this, it means that I can trade away the Littlely. I can also throw down a Drake that will give me a nice tank to be made into, should I hopefully draw another Sun Fury, hopefully draw a Defender of Argus. Still nice things. I've still not managed to get down this Belcher, but I'm trying to trade away the damage whilst making sure the Belcher will let me stabilise. In comes a Spell Revoker, drops me down to 1 attack, and out comes an Avenging Wrath. Really, really nasty. And that will not only pretty much guarantee to clear the table, but put me into a very lethal E position as well. In comes that swing. Could be that we've actually lost a couple of games here. Right, out comes another anti-kill bot. What I have to do here is pretty obvious. I'm going to Belcher into a heal bot, and I'm going to stabilise my position on the table. So this is where I need my Molten Giants. This is where I could really, really do with my Defender of Argus and Sun Furies, but I've not been able to grab the table means. In comes a heal, and with that brilliant basic, that's True Silver Champion, we're going to get swung into twice. I'll be quite frank, there are probably a few misplays that I dropped into that could have certainly improved last game, that potentially cost me this game as well. So please, this is a really good intro. At least you can see how the deck can work. For amazing Handlock play, I will also in the YouTube description, as well as in the links afterwards. Ooh, Ogre Brute. 50% chance to attack the wrong enemy. I note my paladin's opponents kept me under very good control here. Right, there comes the Argus, maybe a turn too late. So, this will give me an opportunity to try and get stable. In comes Sylvanas, buffer up by 1, drop that down by 1. Now decisions, do I just trade away that, or do I force my opponent to come to me? I'm going to remove that, just in case. Could have sat. Which deck do I prefer, says Paul, one with Jiraxxus or Alex? I don't have a Jiraxxus, confession. So this version traded in an Ancient Watcher for a Jiraxxus. I would probably prefer... This is a very aggressive, very greedy deck. I would think if you want to play a bit safer, or if you want to have a little bit more insurance, grab a Jiraxxus if you have it, or if you can craft it. This deck, you can swap some of these legendaries out for other big minions to finish with, so don't worry too much about the legendaries. They are nice to get the table back into position. So I would probably prefer a Jiraxxus, to be honest, because I'm not a massive Handlock player. I'm learning with you as we go along here. But I'd like a Jiraxxus because it gives me the backup late game. If I was in a situation like this, then I would probably quite like a Jiraxxus on my team. Right, so now I've got a decision. Do I Alex for some removal, or do I boom to try and get the table under control? Well, I cannot life tap into an Alex. I can trade away a Little, and Alex would certainly give my opponent something to think about. I'm going to take a risk. I'm going to go for an Alex to my opponent, and then just in case, this is not a Quartermaster Paladin, but it doesn't make too much difference at this stage. I'm going to trade away that 1 token just in case it gets buffed up. So now my opponent, having healed up and been in a good control position, we've stabilised the table. We now have 10 damage, our opponent's got 5 on it. So in comes another True Silver. Probably we are going to see, interesting, a hard control. Going for Alexstrasza, happy to take the damage, and that makes me think that a Tyrian Fordring could be in hand, or that's what my opponent's going to be finishing for. And in comes a Kazan Mystic. Well, no secrets for me, so it's not going to steal anything. Nice. This is a lovely position for us to be in, guys. We can throw in a DarkBomb, that gives us the control play. I can then do a final trade, my Defender of Argus getting some nice trading value, and we've managed to stabilise the table, Dr. Boom on it. Remember that our boom bots, if they get destroyed, are going to deal 1 to 4 damage. Lay on hands for our Paladin, lovely, and that card is showing exactly why it's in there. If he's in trouble, if they're in trouble in the late game, out comes a Holy Light, double heal. That is 10 mana's worth of heals and 3 cards worth of draw. Right, however, I'm in a nice strong table position, so here's a decision. I'm going to go risky, and that risk was worth it because I've drawn another Defender of Argus. So my opponent is not only going to have to get through an inter-attack tank, they're also going to have to deal with 2 tanks and a bunch of damage there. So I've got Big Game Hunter for any big threats that come on the table. My one challenge is if my opponent has drawn Tyrian. Now with 4 equality, all minions to 1, if that's a Consecrate, this is going to be hyperly painful. Now most decks run 2 equality and 2 Consecrate, so my opponent's got down to 2 health, but with a swing for 4, that's going to be top back up, 6 cards to 4, so close. And this kind of Paladin deck really generally runs a Tyrian Fordring, so I'm feeling like we're going to be having some challenges, unless there's a big old minion that's to come. Now I have a big risk here. I can throw down a big game to challenge and ask for a trade. I can't really life tap. If my opponent throws down a Tyrian, I Siphon Soul, but then they have a 5 attack, 3 durability Ashbringer. So we see the obvious trade there. In comes a Spectral Knight. I can't target that with a Siphon Soul, and just with enough minions my opponent can chip me away. In comes an Iron Beak Owl. So there's a full table there. I do have Hellfires. Ooh, Twilight Drake, right, well, that is 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, so there is lethal there next go. I have to Siphon Soul and restore 3. So really, what do I Siphon Soul here? Well, I've got to Siphon Soul something. This is the only way, of course, that I stay alive. Now the Twilight Drake, misplay there. I should have played the Twilight Drake first, because I'd have more cards in my hand before playing the Siphon Soul. So I've actually just given my opponent a card that they can easily trade away. Siphon Face. So that puts me in for a 7. In comes a Reinforce. Shadow Flame could have almost cleared the table. We've got a Morton Giant as well. So that is 6 damage on the table. In comes Warlock Giants. I can destroy the table. So the challenge is, do I remove everything and try and go for an exhaust? Or do I try and attack for that? I'm going to take a risk and Shadow Flame there. So it's gone right down to the exhausting wire. Why not Shadow Flame, said Paul. If I'd Shadow Flamed, I wouldn't. Oh, in comes a Guardian of Kings, 6 health restore. That's probably going to be a good game. My paladin friend has had enough last ability to last this game out. So I definitely. And look. There we go. We have a loss, sadly. But, well played. Now if I'd kept that on the table rather than Shadow Flaming, I could have Sun Free Protected and that could have actually been a win. So 2 losses there, showing my inexperience with Handlock, but hopefully if that's not a guide, it's at least giving you a good introduction. So thank you so much for tuning in. That's the Handlock that we've seen. I'm just going to share the Handlock that we've been taking a look at. Full credit to MZQ for sharing that list. If you're on YouTube, take a look at the description below, and I'll also link it in this ending screen. So if you're on YouTube, come join us at Failcraftcast on Twitter. We'll always tweet before we're going to go live, and we also stream twitch.tv/Failcraftcast. Try and go live 5 nights a week. Timing below on the left there. I need to change BST to GMT now, of course. If you're on Twitch, don't forget youtube.com/Failcraftcast. If you throw up a sub there, you can always catch over 160 Hearthstone half hours. Could have Shadow Flamed the Dragon, says somebody. I'm going to go and look back at that. I could have done. The Spectral Knight wasn't on the table at the time, or if it was, it wouldn't have killed the Spectral Knight. If it was, I could have taken 3 of the minions out. That might have made the difference. So, good point, somebody. I think there's a couple of combos in that late game. I messed up that late game of that last game. So, thank you for tuning in. If you're on YouTube, you can see some links here to the 2-minute summary of this deck, complete with list, and also the link for this here, as well as other guides. We will be back tomorrow for those of you live on stream with our Pick Your Own Arena. Same time, same place. Thank you so much for tuning in, and take